Now we're at the Nürburgring GP track. Michael Schumacher about to take the chicane.
If an accountant happened to know what the hell was center of apex,
an accountant would see this and say he was turning in too early and then straightening the wheel because he noticed that he's turning too early. No, he wasn't.
Michael made a very small yank, creating a micro centrifugal inertial force, preloading his outside tires and then unloading them again, creating this micro instability. When he finally turned in, there was a centrifugal inertial current, a force. Basically, the inertia of the car was directed to low-key spin the car instead of forcing it to go forward, countering rotation.
It's a very small current, but it was all he needed. Max Verstappen was doing the same thing at Baku. Ayrton Senna was doing the same thing at Imola. It's like a very subtle, refined Scandinavian flick.
This isn't a matter of awareness, it's all about technique. Because your awareness will decide whether the actual turn-in point after the build-up is timed properly or not. If you got perfect awareness, perfect center of apex, regardless of how you set up the corner, you will revolve around it perfectly. We already talked about the imperfection of Michael's awareness, and it is magnified because on this side of the deep, the smallest chink in the armor is numbered as a failure that needs to be exorcised. Compared to his competition, the fact is he was near robotic. He was on another level. But the McLaren was about 2 seconds per lap faster than the Ferrari.
Michael was on his mission to rebuild Ferrari. He brought Ross Brawn and Jean Todt, and he was driving the wheels off that Ferrari and driving the hairs off his head with the strategy. Michael was becoming a very intelligent racer. We're in Italy in 1998. The Imola Grand Prix is underway. Michael launches well and he is immediately onto the McLarens. After a while, Mika and David grew a gap to Michael of about 3 seconds. Until Mika's car decided it wasn't interested in working anymore. Michael's gap to David in front was 13 seconds. It grew to 20. David and Michael pit. They come out and the gap is about 25 seconds. But then Michael started lapping the same times as David Coulthard.
But you see, it was David's best lap that Michael was consistently matching and then beating.
There are 25 laps left in this race. Michael starts closing in. Michael is using the last inch of the track. The gap is closing by 0.6 of a second per lap. It's 23 seconds, 20 laps to go. Michael would have to lap at least 1.2 seconds per lap faster than David to have a battle at the end, which we know he'd win. They're 1.4 seconds apart. Michael Schumacher was rushing like a piranha who smelled blood. Schumacher noticed his own flow and David's latency. Michael could have put it in combat right there, but his tires were shredded. So he gambled a pit stop. The gap to David is now 20 seconds. Michael closes it to 17. A few laps to go and we see David has a brake issue.
His braking system was leaking fluid that was making the pedal slightly longer, slowly but surely. This forced him to set the brake bias further rear as far as possible, and immediately it was a fish out of water. Because this makes the car twitchy, the car wants to rotate like water. While this was an unusual failure that made David scared, this was the usual way Michael liked his car to be tuned. Also with heavy engine braking, you know, to get the max out of his car.
Michael Schumacher is in the rhythm of Imola. 13 laps to go. Michael is 1 second a lap faster than David Coulthard. 16 seconds gap, 12 laps to go. 15 seconds, 11 laps. Something interesting, Mika Hakkinen achieved the top speed on the track before he retired, and it was 10 kilometers faster than David Coulthard's across the whole race. David started pushing hard, but he was inconsistent in every measurable way. Out of sync with the track, fearing the limits like an accountant. But because of his McLaren, it did slow down Michael's rapid catch. The gap was 12 seconds, which at this point with only 6 laps to go felt like a year. But Michael was relentless. 4 laps to go and Michael is pushing, it's 9 seconds. Schumacher is 7 seconds away from David. They crossed the line 3 seconds from each other. Michael owns you and your rocket ship. But here comes the questioning again. Michael, why didn't you win? You should have won that race.
If you no longer go for the gap, you're no longer a racing driver. David had a clear 1 second a lap slower than you gap. You couldn't drive his McLaren, but you missed the gap. You chased him like a tiger and then you let him go like a herbivore. Firstly, the call to pit when you were 1.4 seconds. If your tires were really that short, well, that's your fault for going fast and not being able to handle your tires. If it takes a Marvel hero to beat that McLaren, whose fault is it that you're not a Marvel hero? You should have given it 18 tenths and overtaken David into Villeneuve chicane on the last lap. Your tires were fine. 1999, we meet at Imola once again. And the starting grid, Mika, David, Michael and Eddie. Like life gave Michael a second chance. You better win this time, Michael. Michael is more determined this time. Mika is absolutely flying. There are 3 seconds between Mika and David, 3 seconds between David and Michael. The gap grows. Mika is pulling away. Michael is gaining on David. Mika hits a lap time of 1 minute 29.1. This time is blinding. Michael's fastest in 98 was 129.3.
Loses the McLaren and slam bang into the wall.
Mika, you're the stronger driver. You were supposed to challenge Michael. Michael has a 4-second gap to David. He starts pushing, using every millimeter of the track. Gap is down to 3.2 seconds, 2.2 seconds. Michael's time is 129.2. It's a 6.9 second stop. Michael hits a 1 minute 28.8 lap time, faster than Mika did before he crashed. David pits. He sees the track ahead of him exit of the pit lane. Michael is in the lead. David pushing out of panic over the crest on the downhill left hand, outbraking himself. David Coulthard is stabbed by Imola and thrown off to eat gravel. Michael grows a gap of 16 seconds. Lap time 1 minute 28.6. Near a full second faster than David. 19 seconds ahead of David, 128.5. Michael Schumacher is flying. This race, Michael Schumacher marked his territory at Imola as his frequency. Michael pits one more time, comes out ahead of David and all the traffic. Like I said, it was over. Gap 4 seconds to David. Michael cruised onto the finish to be the man who would later have 7 wins at Imola to his name. So like I said, the Red Baron marked his territory. Year 2000 and Michael Schumacher wins the championship with Ferrari. A great weight was put off his shoulders. He won his first championship with Ferrari. Michael did what not many others could dream of, win in a Ferrari. Do you not know how insane it is to win with a Ferrari? Check out the film I made on Ferrari. And it didn't end here. Michael and Ferrari dominated 4 times again after that, making it 5 times with Ferrari and 7 in total, including the 2 championships he won with Benetton. Michael gaining more experience, getting wiser, learning the sport. Well, yeah, of course, he became a technocrat, a master of Formula 1 Grand Prix racing. And this was the problem. You see, Michael had 2 sides to his technique. On the aggressive side, he would enter a corner too fast and then pull off a braking drift, yanking the car into the corner while his foot is still slightly on the brake, which in his Benetton and Ferrari made the car slide. The sliding friction he would use to slow him down enough while rotating. It's Takami's technique. He was completing the corners faster than the computer says is possible. And then Michael started honing another technique. He would change the trajectory of his car while maintaining grip, forcing the car to run on the trajectory of the wheels. You also see this from Go Hojo and Charles Leclerc, but theirs is much more on the aggressive side. Michael honed a silky smooth way of practically picking up his car, pointing it right, putting it down again, and it has to run on those rails. Michael Schumacher's technique is honestly one of the most artistic, delicate techniques I've ever seen in my life. But notice the unorthodox nature of the braking drift. The whole point of the braking drift is to enter the corner too fast intentionally. The sliding friction of the tires will deaccelerate the car for you while you are rotating, justifying the overspeed. This is a cornering geometric contradiction that only makes sense to an enfant terrible. And actually so was the other technique, low-key. And the problem is, Michael Schumacher was studying the geometry of cornering as a wise man. He became wise. In his driving, in the garage, in the paddock, the factory, what Michael worked for is perfect efficiency. He practically made the Ferrari as fast as it is. And so he became a data specialist. But the problem is, with all this wisdom came one bug, and that is reality. After bringing Ferrari to glory, subconsciously, Michael thought that he had graduated. He's got his 7 degrees and master's titles. He's learnt it all. He's the technocrat. Like Ryosuke, he thought he had the best driver's theory done. Method of perfection. Now it was just all up to him to become perfect. Obviously, if he found something that raised the bar, made him faster, he would grab it. It's not that he felt good enough like an accountant. Michael is a technocratic perfectionist. But this is the problem. Michael reached for perfection, and that was the limit. He pushed the limits till there was nothing left on the table to his knowledge, and then so he built on that. If he feels he's hit a limit, or the data says he's hit a limit, well then that's his limit. For him, it's back to the garage to improve the car. But the problem is data can only tell you where your car has been. It can't tell you what your car can do. Michael's technique totally contradicted his method of efficiency. His mind was like AI, but his technique was an unorthodox one, breaking a law of cornering geometry and getting an incredible side effect to go faster than the computer says is possible. He built it while he was still an enfant terrible. Contradictions 101. If perfection describes an end goal of zero fault, it can't get any better, that means there's a finish line. Speed is distance covered over time, and if speed can be infinite, there is no such thing as perfection. So what grew in his head was a confusion equivalent to the workers of the Tower of Babel. His instinct and his head had two different languages, and they contradicted each other in every way. And in this confusion, his instinct started getting retrained. Because it's always getting trained. You choose how to train it, whether consciously, methodically, or unconsciously, just making habits. This is why you can't be driving the wrong way. This is why Max Verstappen says the thing of being okay with crashing and making mistakes on a simulator, that's all nonsense, and it's gonna hurt you because you're training your instinct. You're practically training yourself to crash. We are rewinding. Riding with Ayrton Senna in the old days, Michael was led into the deep. After that last fateful day, Michael raced behind Ayrton one last time at Imola. Michael still sometimes had the ghost dream. His instinct remembered how Senna took the corners. Look at this one corner at Adelaide. He used the throttle to rotate at the perfect timing. But the problem is, he didn't train his instincts and ingrain it into his head and lay white patches till you can see it on the other side of his brain. The bad awareness problem of Michael Schumacher was not completely exorcised, and by his new wisdom, it was reinvented. Consciously remembering how he made impossible moves, went at insane speeds, setting crazy laps and beating Senna sometimes. So now coming to a corner knowing that he is the king, let's go for the lunge. Okay, let's try again. Let's go for the lunge. But then his data-driven brain would panic, saying you are entering the corner too fast. Oblivious to the unorthodox enfant terrible way he would enter the corners faster. This was going to be his Babel confusion. And now knowing that he's entering the corner too fast, out of panic he turns in too early so he doesn't go wide off the track. Michael Schumacher's braking drift he performed before at Imola. 2006 he does it again, but he simply doesn't give enough entry speed, and so he hesitated in inducing the drift. He can't enter any faster, the computer says no, so he just rotated too much too early. Here at Imola, there was a bumpy curb and it was just grass on the inside. Michael just drifted on counter steer to not go off-road. But we know all of this slowed him down. He was covering extra distance that he never needed to cover, stressing his tires for nothing. On this lap at Imola, if Senna was here, he would have gone for the least 8/10 faster than Schumacher. Might have been more than a full second. But Michael's biggest problem is that he could never be wrong. For Michael Schumacher on a ticking bomb, it is only going to be a matter of time until a mercenary by the name Fernando Alonso would show Michael the door with zero credibility. As soon as Fernando Alonso had a car good enough to compete against the Ferrari, at Imola, Michael's den. Michael outbrakes himself, he can only qualify 13th. Exactly the same as when accountant Coulthard did it in 99. The Imola Grand Prix is underway and in no time, look, Michael is on the podium. Looks like those 7 titles did pay off. Behind Jensen Button, Michael waits for him to get all caught up with back markers. He slows down, Michael takes the lunge. He's in 2nd place, not knowing the mercenary was out there waiting for him. Fernando in his last stop loaded the fuel of approximately 17 laps, and there were 20 laps to go. Cause that was all the ammo mercenary Nando needed for one last shot. Fight is on. Immortal combat in question. Fernando was slowing down mid-corner, practically brake-checking Michael to stop him from getting a good enough exit, keeping his car in the right place of the track for the 247 corners of 13 laps. Michael was paralyzed by his own wise self, overthinking, calculating, second-guessing,
using his thoughts from data. Every move he calculates in his mind he sees as unrealistic, suffering from his own Babel confusion. Fernando's car placement was immaculate but not unbreakable. Michael got a perfect clue here in Fernando defending like Senna. Look at the way he's blocking. Like he's got the awareness of a Japanese grandmaster. This is your wake-up call, Michael. Be a child again. But Michael couldn't hear over the blasting Tower of Babel in his head. It was looking like an old man driving. Michael couldn't know that he lied to himself. And on that fateful day, Fernando Alonso broke the man of Formula One racing. Speed is distance covered over time. If speed can be limitless, there is no such thing as perfection. Ayrton Senna is a speed metaphysician who surpassed perfection, proving this point.